All right, you are recording, sir.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call to order the October 20th, 2020 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board. The agenda, so we have a quorum, and we've called to order, so that's that. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any adjustments that they'd like to make to the agenda? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan, will you call the vote, please?
I will, sir. Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mike Toronto.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Scott Costello.
Aye.
And our other Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, and so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think Mr. Sidgwick can.
Yep, aye.
All right, we have an agenda.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, the approval of, excuse me, last month's board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any adjustments they'd like to make to those minutes? And I'll just start. Kim, under unfinished business, the St. Germain Bay sign, where right ways are, etc. Let's just change that to right of ways. That's 3 words hyphenated.
Okay. Right.
And that's all I had. Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, or to approve last month's meeting minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Alan, will you count the vote or take the vote, please?
I will, sir. Same order as before, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Scott Costello.
Aye.
Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
And Mr. Cameron.
Aye. Hey, Kim, could you do me a favor? And I'm talking to Marty here. Can you send him the link for the Zoom meeting? He can't get in.
Oh,
Yep,
sure.
happy
Okay.
to, or Kim can. Someone will.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Kim, are you going to send them or should Alan?
Sorry, I was muted. I'll try to send it right now.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
Keep him around, Cam, and let me know if he doesn't get it. I'll try it a different way. Thanks.
Okay, so I think that was an approval, Alan?
All approved on the minutes. Yep.
All right, thank you. So we're on to the next item on the agenda, the public comment time. Alan, is there anyone waiting to provide public comments on items that are not on our agenda tonight?
Nobody in the waiting room, sir.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on. New business. Steve McComas is here with us tonight. And Mike, would you just do a little introduction for us here, and then we'll turn it over to Steve.
Okay, well, as most of you know, we do a weed survey every spring, and react to that to treat milfoil. And Steve McComas has been our limnologist for a number of years. He knows the lake better than most. And this year we kind of got a break. We didn't find as much milfoil, but we really didn't get a break because we tested all the spots that we normally do. And there's still, it's over 300, I think, places that we tested for. So to tell everybody what we found, here is Steve McComas. Steve, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mike. Hi, everybody. Well, it's always a pleasure and it's fun to be here again. So we were out on June 22nd, 2020, and Mike comes with us, talking about people who know the lake. Nobody, I don't think, knows the lake better than Mike does, so it's always a great help. And so it's always a very thorough survey as well. We go all the way around the lake, and we're using the rake sampler and things. We came up, after going all the way around the lake, and Mike mentioned it, we checked over 300 sites. We came up with 6 treatment areas totaling 12.17 acres. And I'm not sure if we have a PowerPoint or if we have a map of that, but if it's possible, we could put that up. If not, we'll just keep on going. So we had most of the treatment
Hey,
areas
Steve.
this year were in the.
Steve, sorry to interrupt just a moment. Alan, do you want to share your screen and show that map, or what are you thinking? Okay, I guess keep going, Steve.
Okay, yeah. I have the map right here.
No,
See
there
if I
it
can
Hey.
do something with that, but
Hang on
I
a
think
minute.
it's in the wrong
I'm just,
PowerPoint.
I'm happy to do it. My mute was double clicked, so it was on. I do have your PowerPoint, Steve. That looks like it shows a map. Do you want me to use that?
That'd be great. Yes,
Okay.
that first map is what we call our delineation.
Yeah, hang on a
So
minute.
that's where
I'll
we
just
go
share
around
it.
and pick out areas to treat. And we hit a bunch of areas, we circle it, we get points, GPS points, then we circle them up, and that's how we determine treatment areas. And we get an area with that, give that to the applicator, and then it's treated. So we ended up with 12 acres this year of treatment. That's down considerably from a high of, the all-time high that we did was 174 acres back in 2010. So here's our delineation. You can see we have 3 treatment areas over in kind of that in the commercial bay, and with that we hand it over to the applicator. He treats it, and then we come back and do an assessment, and that's shown on the next slide. So after a treatment, we come back and see, how did he do? We look at the same treatment areas as well as other sites around the lake. And what we found is that there was pretty good control this year. Now, the next question is, we only treated 12 acres. How come there weren't very many acres to treat? And here's what I think happened. In lakes like Bald Eagle, Big Marine, and Forest Lake, which are similar in size and in depth, Eurasian milfoil, the mature milfoil, did not seem to overwinter and did not come in and was not present in the June survey. A little bit more milfoil showed up later in the summer, but these deep lakes, for some reason, this winter really knocked down the milfoil. And so milfoil in a number of lakes was down this year. It's to our advantage that we were able to only had to treat 12 acres and had pretty good control. And we didn't really see any nuisance conditions in August. Not to say that there weren't a few patches here and there. So the treatment was very successful, and overall acreage was down. Now we put that into perspective, or at least we can kind of show here are the areas. The next slide shows a kind of a hotspot map where we have taken 7 years of treatments, put all the treatment areas on top of each other, and you can see that there are some areas that are pretty persistent with growth, and this year a lot of that growth just did not occur. And it might have been a winter kill, so to speak, of the Eurasian milfoil, especially in the deeper water. In a lot of lakes that were shallower, there was plenty of milfoil this year. So lakes with a lot of milfoil in shallow water, there was some growth. But in these lakes with deep, where it grows 10, 11, 12 feet, not so much milfoil this year. So again, to kind of put this in perspective then with kind of our historical view, and that's shown in the next slide. There's a table there that lists all the acres that have been treated going back to 1988. And then on the right hand is the graph of those, just graphing up the areas that have been treated with herbicides. Look what's happening here. From 2010, we had the all-time high. We were not at 174 acres. We're down to 12 acres in 2020. That is somewhat comparable to that span of 10 years from 1998 through 2008, when we had less than 20 acres that were treated. And some of this might be related to lake levels as well. Remember, we had lower lake levels, more light penetration, and we had pretty robust milfoil growth there for a few years. But now with the higher lake levels and ongoing treatments that we've done, we're back down to a kind of a situation or a condition similar to that 10-year span. So that's pretty much good news in the long run. But again, every year is different. But look at the trend in the last few years of dropping down to those those levels from early 2000s. Then in the last slide, that just shows the team that's out here. And again, I can't thank Mike enough for taking all his time, probably cutting into his water skiing time as well. But out in the lake has been very helpful and also makes for a much more successful project for controlling the abundant milfoil. Again, the objective is not to treat all milfoil, but treat to what we think would be nuisance growth, abundant growth that could interfere with recreation and navigation. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody, for the opportunity to work together. And
Okay, well, so now we have some time for questions for Steve, and I'll just get us going. And Steve, do you have any ideas why the mature milfoil didn't winter well in deeper lakes, and could it be impacted by the higher water levels, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think in White Bear especially, we had a 1-2 punch. With higher lake levels now, it's going to be tougher for the milfoil to grow where it's grown in shallower water in the past. You know, some of these areas now that are 12, 13 feet deep, in 2010, they were 6, 7 feet deep. It was a lot easier. You had a lot more sunlight and a lot more growth. And now if you put 5 feet of water on the lake, sunlight's not going to get down quite as far as high intensity, and that has an impact. Now, the next question, that's a great question. Why over this winter, or what happened to the milfoil over winter? What happens is that in the deeper water, all these lakes, milfoil doesn't die off, it dies back. It just kind of lays down. And then when the conditions are right, it can spring right back up, and all of a sudden it's up 4 or 5 feet. But this year, it just never came back up. And it looks like what happened winter, for whatever reason, whether it was sunlight, some series of events that I can't quite tease out, the milfoil died off rather than dying back. And therefore, when we were finding it, and me and Mike were out there with the rakes and everything else, heck, the milfoil was only a couple inches high, and we knew that in June, in 12 feet of water, it wasn't going to grow 10 feet, you know, in the next month. So then we didn't really treat that milfoil in the deep water. So it's a good point. It's something to keep tracking. I have not seen that previously in any lake. So it's something to kind of keep an eye on. We can figure out what limited it. Would that be interesting?
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so then this is my last question. If we see milfoil kind of rebound later in the season, would it make any sense to treat that again, or would that be silly?
No. Well, that's kind of a subjective question. If you think if the thinking is that it is abundant enough to impact recreation, and it's early enough in the year that we'd still get a month or two of benefit from a treatment, then it might be worth treating. But we kind of time our delineation now. Mike keeps us posted. We're in late June. We try to knock it down as best we can. And then if it's back up in, by mid-August, would it be worth treating that to get us, through the month of September? We only get about a month's worth of benefit. So that's kind of a subjective question, but it can certainly be done and has been done in other lakes as well. So it's kind of that's kind of a your call situation.
Got it. Okay. Other questions for Steve?
Yeah, I was wondering, we've had zebra mussels in the lake for like 5 years now. And are we seeing any effect of increased water clarity allowing light to get down to that milfoil?
You're muted, Steve.
Steve, you're muted.
Wait, there.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry, how long was I muted for a long time?
Yeah, you should start your response to Scott again, I think.
Okay, cool. But the last question, I think you heard me. Okay, good. So the question was about zebra mussels and clarity. There's a couple of things that have happened. Initially, zebra mussels did have an impact in clarity. They took the algae down so far that they started dying back a little bit. Their population has already peaked. And so water clarity is not improving as it once at the rate it was. So clarity is kind of leveled off now, even with and it's a little bit better than it was prior to zebra mussels, but it's not, sky high. So zebra mussels had that initial effect. I don't think we're getting a big zebra mussel impact on aquatic plant growth at this point. It's different in some lakes where you get a 3 or 4 foot increase in transparency. It can have a bigger impact on not only milfoil, but also on your native plants as well. Forest Lake, the native plants are a much heavier and much more of abundant condition than the milfoil is.
Okay, sorry, Scott, other
I
questions?
was going to say that if we're saying that the zebra mussels have peaked, at least in terms of water quality, does that also mean that zebra mussels are not going to be, the kind of effects we have from zebra mussels in terms of attaching to docks and stuff, is that peaked too?
It probably has, but here's what happens. So the algae was here, the zebra mussels increased, the algae went down because they grazed the algae down, so clarity increased. Well, now with the algae down, zebra mussels start dying back. So their population is going down. However, with the zebra mussel population going down, now the algae comes back up, and so the zebra mussels are going to come back up too. So we're going to have an oscillation, over time, predator prey. Zebra mussels high, algae low. They go down, algae comes up, and then the zebra mussels will respond because their food source increases. So yes, we'll still have zebra mussels on docks, and we'll still see them on plants. But rather in some years, rather than having thousands on your dock, you probably have tens to maybe hundreds. Likewise on plants, rather than having plants coated with zebra mussels, there'll be a less density of zebra mussels. And then that will also vary from year to year, depending on your algae concentration. Hope that helps.
Okay.
Okay, other questions?
Well, I'd like to mention in viewing the lake conditions by the end of August that their milfoil was back up, and it was in about from 9 feet to 11 feet of water. It seemed to be most prevalent along Matamidi shoreline and into Wildwood Bay pretty heavily. And then it almost immediately covered with a moss and started laying over. And by the end of September, it was laying down pretty good. So I think we might see more than 12 acres next year to be treated.
Yeah. See, that's interesting, Mike. What if that filamentous algae growing on the milfoil is helping control? What if it kills it over winter? But you're right. Those would be areas to check. Because when we checked on August 21st, yes, we did see some light to moderate growth in a number of areas, but not very many things topping out.
No, nothing topped out.
Okay. Anything else for Steve?
Hey, before you leave this subject, Brian, there is I'm not sure if everyone can see this, but on the chat box, someone who's online watching from an iPad has asked a question. Why do we not want to eradicate all the milfoil? Is there some milfoil positive?
Oh, that's a nice question. Well, first of all, it'd be awfully expensive to try to eradicate milfoil. We really haven't been able to eradicate, or a better word would be to eliminate milfoil in any lake. If it it disappears in a lake, it's because of old Mother Nature and natural conditions just weren't suitable for its growth. When milfoil is at low or light densities, it's very similar in function of the native plants, which are also fairly light, have a light density growth. So Eurasian milfoil, an invasive species, but if it's not really invasive or it's not really high in high abundance, it's going to act and function much like our native plants do in terms of offering, habitat and structure and shading and things like those attributes. These invasive species, it's when they grow to heavy or nuisance or overly abundant conditions is what we want to kind of manage for. And in White Bear this last year, milfoil was not too widespread.
Right on. And the response came in, it's actually Marty hiding behind an iPad. So that was his question. And if I caught your answer, the answer is we do want to eradicate all the milfoil essentially, but just not practical.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And one thing I'll add to that is there's also a chemical component to this. The more we try to control it, the more chemical it takes. And so it's really kind of a balancing act, I think.
Well, that's right. Plus, there is limitations too. We are limited by the DNR to 15% of the growing zone area. So there would be a cap on it too. So we probably wouldn't be able to treat all the milfoil even if we wanted to.
And I have a question related to that, Steve, that I've always wondered, and maybe Mike knows the answer to this too. What is the purpose behind that throttling of that treatment by DNR? I don't even know that.
Well, neither does the DNR. It is lost in their records, but they have established this 15% maximum. And originally it was because they figured if you treated more than 15% of your littoral zone at one time, the plant dieback could cause an oxygen depletion and a potential fish kill from a lack of oxygen with all the plants decomposing. So but nobody knows at the DNR how they came up with a 15% limit, but it's in the statute now, and we've asked that question a number of times as well. It's interesting, but you know what? That 15% seems to be pretty effective. It seems to work pretty well. We can get most of our nuisance growth in most lakes treating up to about 15% of that littoral zone, the growing zone.
Thank you.
Well, we were faced with exceeding that a few years back, and the DNR said if you had a lake quality plan, including all the weeds and the types of weeds, and you had a plan going forward, how you would manage it, and the DNR accepted that plan, you could exceed the 15%. And we did do a plan. It was accepted. It's on file with the DNR. I have a copy of it. And so if we do have to exceed the 15%, we probably could.
That's right, Mike. You're right.
Okay, any other questions for Steve?
Steve, are you going to send out your report to Kim so she can distribute it to all the board members?
Absolutely. And one thing I didn't talk about is we also did a specific survey around the public accesses for starry stonewort. And we sampled at least 50 sites at each point or at each access. And we did not find any starry stonewort, which is another invasive species that's starting to creep into the metro area. So that'll also be in the report. Didn't really have anything to show, so I didn't really put a slide together. We just had a bunch of black dots and no starry stonewort. Yes, I'll put together that report, get it to Kim, we can post it.
Okay.
Can you send us the bill too, please?
Oh yeah, I can do that. I'll do that too.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, again, last time, any other questions for Steve? Okay, thank you, Steve, for your help. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the report.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to work with y'all. Bye now.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on to unfinished business, which the item of unfinished business is the Commercial Bay study. So I'll just kick off. I'd like to just have some discussion about this item. And I'll just kick it off. So we got some good input. Thanks to the board members who provided input. I apologize that we just got that today, but hopefully you all have a copy of that. And I guess I'm interested in hearing what people are thinking about the study, about the scope, those items that were sent around, and what we think the next steps might be.
Well, I think there's a lot of good stuff in this document that we got today. I sensing that a lot more work is needed to get to the point where we could actually create something analogous to an RFP, or a request for proposal. And I seeing that there's like a couple categories of things here. One is, like if you do research on the, pollution and chemical related kind of things, that might be one vendor or subcontractor who could do that. But there's a lot of issues here on like crowding. Okay, say, are we having too much crowding? Well, how do you measure that, and what kind of expertise would we have to find to be able to do that? So I'm sensing that we got all the rough pieces here. We have questions that we want answered. And we have certain kind of things that we think will help us answer those. But we seem to be a bit away to actually going out and trying to get somebody to do this for us.
And I agree. I think that, yes, I think that it takes some refinement, and I'll offer my 2 cents. I think it's good that we're collecting all of these ideas. I think that's really positive. I think it's possible that if we went through and organized these ideas a bit, that we may come up with things that aren't necessarily study related, but maybe rules related for us, could fall into some other category like that. So I think the question for me is, what's the best way to move this forward? But maybe before we go to that discussion, I'll just raise this point. Should we abandon this idea of having a study of Commercial Bay? And I think that it's important that the study is going to be kind of a big deal, and it's going to potentially impact Commercial Bay dock owners. And I guess the question is, we've been talking about doing the study, but should we? And I'm open to input on that. So what do people think about that?
What is the advantage to not doing the study when clearly that seems to be the biggest issue on the lake that we deal with every week or every month?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Others?
We have.
Yeah, I think, okay.
Diane?
Well, we have a study from before. Is that still applicable to the lake, since the lake really hasn't changed in terms of acreage?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So the study from 1999, I think, and then updated in 05, maybe. And I think the one thing that may have changed is that the number of slips in Commercial Bay may have increased since that time, but I don't know that with certainty. But I think it's a question. If Commercial Bay hasn't changed and there haven't been any changes, and we have the study from back then, is it necessary to do the study?
Well, didn't we use those studies to establish, a moratorium or essentially a cap that now we're struggling with as people are trying to fit more and more slips in there? Do we have the rationale to set a cap? Do we have the data to do that?
My take on the report, or the reports that were prepared, is that kind of in passing, they said, hey, you should probably hold the number of slips at this level. And I think it's a good question, Scott, of what data is available out there to support that.
There was a moratorium put on slips at that time, and in 99 or 2000, actually, the report came out, and then again it was reaffirmed in 2005. But that number held up for many years, and then it just kind of, different people get on the board. Different opinions change. Just things change over time. And so the result is we've had an increase in that number. We've had an increase in the number of boats, I think, around the lake, because there was issues on, what constitutes crowding and what doesn't. And there weren't big issues back then, but there's a lot more boats now. So a study is certainly not out of the question. But I think the first question to answer is, what exactly do we want to accomplish with the study? Do we want to accomplish the number of boats that we allow in Commercial Bay, or do we want to accomplish the water quality in Commercial Bay, or do we want to accomplish the ability to enforce our ordinances in the Commercial Bay? There's a lot of good questions that were brought up. There basically looks like about 3 different contributors, and some of it overlaps. And so maybe the next step would be to take everything that's been presented, ask for even more in questions that might be asked, and then compile it in a manner where there's no duplication. Then you could probably then just go down the list and say, do we want to address this issue? Do we want to address this one? And come up with the things that we really want to address.
Brian, I think a study needs to be done to, like, when people ask me, why does so-and-so have this many slips and so-and-so have this many slips? And then when you talk to people that have the slips, they all think they're being gypped, or they don't have as many as they used to, or they want more. And there should be just a really easy way to figure out, like, there should be a fairness doctrine in place. And I don't even understand. I mean, I guess the city of White Bear Lake has some slips. Do they even own the frontage? I don't even understand all of that. And I think until all of that is clear to everybody on the committee, I think it all needs to be redone so that everybody is dealt with fairly. And I'm not so sure everybody's being dealt with fairly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, identify the questions, essentially the scope. And it's driven by all the things that we struggle with every year. Questions about what's the total number of slips. Okay, so that's a question. But then to support that, we need data of different kinds on pollution, somehow on, what other kind of data that could help answer that question. And see, that's what's going to drive the actual amount of work that's being done on the study. But we do have frustrations, I think. We don't have a good view on how many slips should be in that bay. And I think that's really the primary question, but there's other really good questions in this document.
Agreed. And I think that those are great points that probably the next step, I'll just lay this out as a suggestion, that the next step is, yes, thank you, Pat. The next step is that we all of the ideas that have been accumulated here, try to organize those in some way, to like, to eliminate duplication and that kind of thing, but also maybe to try to organize them if there are items that are obviously not study items, but more background data gathering or something like that. Then maybe those are things we could implement ourselves, or rule changes, obviously, but then get to the point where we do have a decent scope for the study. Okay, so I'll make the suggestion that the executive committee just keeps that for the moment and tries to get some organization around those items and then brings it back to the November meeting. Anybody have any input on that or any objection to that, I guess I should say?
Well, I have one I don't know if it's a suggestion, maybe a piece of information, is that since the number was 436 boats, and then the moratorium was stated that we should have a moratorium. There were a couple increases. There were 2 boats that increased that number at what was at the Aqua Dock over the years, and the only other marina that increased their numbers over and above the moratorium and above our permit level is the White Bear Docks. Everyone else has stayed at their what they were given after the study, and nobody else has increased it except for 2 boats at Aqua and 50-some boats at White Bear Dock.
All right, thanks for that input. Okay, so I guess hearing no objection, the executive committee will just take that and try to get these ideas organized. And Kim, if you would just make a note to, and sorry everyone who hasn't supplied input, but just send an email to the people that you didn't get any input from, just to check if they have anything they'd like to add.
Oh, definitely. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? And I should say, well, I don't know. I think we should do a study. That's what I think. But let's get it organized a little more, and then the board can have some further discussion, and we'll make a decision. Now, one thing I'll also say is I wonder if we can get everything put together and get it organized to have the study done next summer. I wonder about that, but we'll keep moving forward and see.
Yeah, well, it's going to take like actual work to figure out, because we got to get it to the point where we can actually have a statement of work or a request for proposal to have somebody actually go and do whatever measurements we think are needed.
And I agree. And I think that's the thing, is it's going to take, if we want to do this well, I think we need to take the time to do it well. And unfortunately, we have, we meet once a month, and there are some other limitations, but we'll keep pushing down the road. Good for that? Okay.
Yep.
The next item is the reports, action items. The executive committee. So the executive committee did meet. The study was one topic of discussion, and you heard about that, and then nothing else really to report from that meeting. So we're on now. I should say, any questions about that? Okay, so we're on now to the Lake Quality Committee. Mike?
Okay, lake quality. The lake level right now today is 924.2. 924.2. I've had a lot of people ask me, because the lake's gone down a little bit, how much has the lake gone down? How much has the lake gone down? I thought, well, I don't, it looks like about a foot or so. I don't know. I'll have to do the numbers. So today I did the numbers, and from the highest point in June of 925 point something, 0.04, the lake has gone down 10.5 inches. So by the numbers, 10.56 to be exact, which is not uncommon. So we're at 924.2. The average level of the lake is 923.42. That's been established over many, many years. So average is 923.42. We're still above average. Water is not flowing out, has not been flowing out to Bald Eagle for the last couple weeks. So we're just kind of maintaining our own level now.
Yeah.
So Mike, one quick question. Historically, I know August, the lake always, or has gone down a lot because you have 80 and 90 degree days and you don't always have a lot of rain. It seems to me like this entire drop has been late September and early October, because I've kind of watched my own shoreline and it just like disappeared overnight. Is there any reason for concern about that?
In the fall, it always, like you say, you've been around the lake, it always goes down in the fall. I don't know if it's the nature of the trees taking their last drink or everything, going to the system to get ready for winter or not. It's drier. We had in September, I think, less than an inch of rain the whole month. So that would cause a dramatic effect. And not too much in October, except for now we got snow.
Yeah. I think even
but it's not out of the question.
An average. So, I mean, we've had 3 months now of less than average rainfall. And I think that's what happens.
Right, that's what happens.
Not that strange.
No, and we're still above average, and there's still
years. We've had a lot of wet years.
Yeah, and we were at 925. We were really high. That was a good, it was nice and healthy and high. So, yeah, we lost some water, but it's not unusual. I don't think. Okay. Any other questions on the water, on the lake level? All right. The lake temperature today is 47 degrees. Last year on this day, it was 50 degrees, and the year before that, it was 54 degrees. So it's colder, and it's due to the climate, and due to the weather we've been having, which has been cold. Now we've got cold weather coming up too, so the lake's not gonna warm up. It's just gonna keep getting colder. So we might have early ice this year. I'm gonna make a prediction that we're gonna have early ice. Last year it froze on December 2nd. We might get a freeze before that, like close to Thanksgiving. That's just a guess. Last thing is the Phragmites was treated October 8th by Lake Management. It was a successful treatment. It was, it was paid for by Anoka County, and they had their meeting last night, and it was approved and paid. It was $1,436, I believe. So we didn't have to pay it. We committed to doing the treatment, but we didn't have to pay for it. And I did the thank yous to everybody at Anoka County, Carrie Taylor at Anoka County. And she emailed me back today, and she said, well, our grant was for 2 years, so expect us to do the same again next year. So I said, well, thank you again. So there we are. Any questions?
What does Anoka County have to do with our lake?
Well, Anoka County applied to the state of Minnesota it was an agriculture grant. Somehow or another, they used for aquatic plants. And they got the grant, and it might have been, it was, I didn't know until today, it was a 2-year grant, is that they didn't have enough work to spend it all.
Okay.
So they called Ramsey County, and they said, well, who's active? Who's been active in Ramsey County? And we were actually the first in Ramsey County to go out and treat it, to commit to it, to say we could treat it. And a little bit of that is because we have reserves. We don't have to, penny pinch every time that something happens. And so we committed to treating them. And they were very happy with that. The DNR monitored the treatment. And now the DNR used that particular format to apply to all Phragmites treatments now. And they have a monitoring program that the applicator actually has to come back after he's treated a couple weeks later, back and fill out this form saying how well the Phragmites was treated or what happened to it and the conditions of it. And so we were kind of on the forefront, I guess you'd say. And Turtle Lake was the first, but we were right there ready to treat. So Ramsey County, they talked to Justin Townsend, and he said, well, let White Bear know about it. And there were other places in Ramsey County, so she shared some of the money with people in Ramsey County. So that's how that came to be. And she's willing to share it again next year because we're doing it. We've got the DNR did the surveying, which is really nice. Julia Bowen, I think her name is Bowen, the surveying, and we're committed. I said, yeah, we'll treat again this year. We'll do it. And there we go.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mike? Okay, the one thing I'll add is, since Mike mentioned it, is if everybody could just pay attention to ice in. That's once the ice is in, then we stop getting evaporation. So we've been trying to track that. And we'll discuss that at our January meeting. And we can see how close Mike was to Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We'll move on. The Lake Utilization Committee meeting was canceled. Lake Education Committee, Scott?
Nothing to report. I think everything is up to date on our website. Of course, the problem with having everything up to date on a website is that 2 weeks hence is not up to date. We need constant updating. I haven't put anything on for a couple of weeks, so.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? All right, thank you, Scott. Next on the agenda, the Treasurer's Report, Diane.
Thank you. Treasurer's report for October 2020. We did note on the treasurer's report about the payment from the Phragmites treatment. So just so we have a record of that. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to accept check 4665 through 467.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Certainly will. Same order as last time, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Scott Costello.
Aye.
Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
And Cam.
Aye.
All approved.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Diane?
Diane, can you put for next month on the treasurer's report to pay John Redpath for taking the buoys out, $250?
You bet.
Thank you.
Can you email an invoice or
Pardon me?
I can just make an invoice like I do for John.
Oh, you want an invoice?
Okay, yeah, she can make one.
I
I
asked
can
him.
just make one like I have in the past, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll get it on the treasurer's report.
Okay, any other questions for Diane? Okay, thank you, Diane.
Mhm.
Next item on the agenda, the board council report. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty light month. Checked in with the DNR, and of course with the advent of summer and even with COVID and more people on the lake. I think that the message was loud and clear this summer that the new sheriff's in town and they're watching. So relatively quiet month on the lake as far as enforcement goes. So I don't know what the observations of Marty and Mike and some of the others who actually live on the lake would be, but that's what the report is. So I would stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan?
No.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Next announcements, Kim.
The only thing I have was the people around Manitou Island and specifically, I think her name is Jean, that takes care of the loon population. We're very grateful for our buoys. Want to thank us again for helping them. that they were very successful this year, that they had several baby loons that hatched and were in the area, so they were very happy about that. They just wanted to know if next year we could help them, maybe have Mr. Redpath at certain times move the ski course when the babies are starting to swim, because they found that some of them were getting run over by skiers. So I said, I think we could probably coordinate that.
Mike.
Actually, the ski course will probably never go back there.
Oh, okay.
It's just easier not to bother them.
Okay.
All right, so Kim, thanks for noting that and for making sure to track that for us. Anything else, Kim?
Nope, we'll do it. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Kim? All right, thank you, Kim. Next item on the agenda, adjournment. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, sir. One order again, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Van,
Aye.
Scott C,
Aye.
Scott O,
Aye.
and Cameron.
Aye.
All right, you're adjourned, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you all. Enjoy the snow.
Nice. All right, this will be posted at some point on the broadcast.